Morning, everyone. Welcome to Merritt in the Morning, number 29.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Jim, this is 28 more episodes. Thank you. Our guest
with me all this time.
Our guest today is Brian Wilkes, the weatherman from Box 59 Weather Authority. Thank you for getting up early since
This
You
is early.
you were on the air
I was up
late.
till 4 in the morning, at 3:30 this morning.
You've had a weather week.
Oh, that was a whole nother day. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll get into that in a moment. We actually have paid sponsors, Brian.
Oh,
So you
hell
know how that
no.
works. We are the filler between the commercials.
Okay.
So we're coming to you live if you're on Facebook from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison. They're open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Beer and wine available. Remember, hashtag food at the fort.
They have beer and wine.
They have beer and wine, including Alpsprout.
And
So
speaking of beer,
speaking of beer, we also like
I need
to
to wear my quarter zip.
you do need to wear your Alpsprout quarter zip. So when you're at Cafe Audrey's and they say, do you want an orange juice? Say no, I would like an Alpsprout. We also want to thank Stockyards Bacon
beer for
Trust.
breakfast.
Yeah, sure.
See, I know where now I know where this thing is going.
Hey, I
Thanks,
brought you a
guys.
gift and it's right over there on the corner. Stockyards Bacon Trust, locations at 71st and Binford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis,
Okay.
Plainfield, somewhere in the vicinity of St. Francis Hospital, not in their surgery center, and coming to Center Grove.
I'm alone.
I laugh at that every time we do it.
I know for a while we actually thought that branch was in St. Francis Hospital,
We
and we had Paula Moan on from Stockyards Bacon Trust.
So
and
they
she
roll you
corrected
towards
me.
the
Yeah.
they roll you towards the
Yeah, she goes, well, we're not really in
Send
the
off Paula.
hospital. We are near the hospital.
Okay.
So also want to thank Honey Baked Ham, locations at 96 in Michigan and Greyhound Pass in Carmel. Jim, do you know what this weekend is?
Mother's Day.
It is Mother's Day. And
what do you have for Mother's Day?
what do all mothers want?
Ham.
So
That's exactly what I thought. That's what every mom wakes up and I want a ham.
I want ham. I wish my son would bring me a ham this Mother's Day.
So I can cook it.
Yeah. No,
Oh, no.
this is cooked.
This is
I
great.
know.
So
you don't have to cook
no,
it. this
exactly.
That's
So yeah,
why it's great.
it's
I
the
want
best
that
Mother's
again.
Day gift.
time. It was really good.
And they are offering $15 off select sizes. So it is $15 off a half bone in or whole boneless ham.
Thank you,
If
Cal
you-
family.
Look at the
Go.
fine print
I'll
down
get
there.
some.
In the-
15
$15 off.
Really?
So yeah, that's a hell of a deal. So check them out, ask for it, and say you
Us on podcasts.
what's that? Yes, you can.
Yes, you
The FCC does not regulate any of this.
Well,
So
that's interesting.
And you know what I
Jim, you
like?
might be involved in that later on.
You know what I like at Honey Baked Ham.
you like the mustard.
I like the mustard.
Really?
Yes, honey mustard. It is terrific.
Jim put up a picture of him at Honey Baked Ham with a picture of the half-used mustard jar that was probably unused when you got there.
So you went full on mustard, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
Although
There's
just
sandwiches, you can stop in there for lunch.
You know, I did not know that.
Yeah, you can.
You can grab
They have,
a ham
they have
sandwich,
tables, you can sit in there and have lunch.
stacked and loaded.
Yeah, and a couple cow daughters.
You don't understand. I really dig ham. Okay, so I'm really into this
Now,
whole ham idea.
apparently back in the day, you could have gone to the location at 96 in Michigan, and I guess Peyton Manning was a regular.
You know, now that we talk about ham, I really fouled up my ham a few weeks ago. Because Easter came early, and I thought,
It did. It was in
let's
March.
go, right?
Yep.
And I said, you know what? I'm gonna throw a ham in a slow cooker. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to screw that up.
That's why you call it honey baked.
Yeah.
But what happened was, and I'll be honest with you, I had it in there and it was going, it was smelling good. I think half the fun of having a crock pot is just the smell.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
And then it was done, it was slow, and I think Purdue was playing or there was a game on, and I just kind of left it there and I was drinking a beer. And then the game, I think, extended. And next thing I know, my ham wasn't so honey.
Things went south.
So ham in a crock pot. Now I've
So
been,
thanks for joining us, everybody.
yeah. So, all right. So now we're doing cooking tips with Brian Wilkes.
Yeah, don't.
So now I have done like pork butts and pork shoulders in the crock pot.
Yeah.
I have not done a ham. Does a ham fall apart? Or what?
Honey baked
So
ham.
well, that's why, because hacks like me mess it up. And
Well, yeah, I don't, it's just supposed to ham. You're supposed to just keep it warm and it's
Mhm.
ready to go. If it's smoked, it's ready to go. But yeah, cut out the middleman this Mother's Day. Head over to Honey Baked Ham.
All right, so Brian, this is supposed to be a this is your life kind of episode.
no,
We
that's
want to
all
get to
right.
know you.
Well,
and
now that this is over, that's
Yeah, yeah, come on.
you just found out
yeah,
everything.
now that
you
we've
needed to
lost
know.
our
Yeah.
3 paid sponsors and
You just found
I
out.
lost the one that I pay for.
You have to understand that I can take any of these crazy topics and just go with them.
You know,
I
Colin,
really can.
I heard a rumor, and
Yeah.
somebody told me that Brian Wilkes is from Elkhart.
Really?
No. I started my career in Elkhart, Indiana.
So
That's right. Yeah.
All right, so
well, it was the old channel. Well, the station no longer exists, but it was WSJV Channel 28. We were the ABC affiliate, and I got my very first job in weather there doing weekends. No, I got hired on New Year's Eve, 1992, for $8.42 an hour, and I was over the moon. It was $1.42 more than working for my father. And that job was being a security guard, essentially.
Where'd you grow up?
Grew up on the southeast side of the south suburbs of Chicago, near in the region, essentially. I grew up in Lansing, Illinois, right there off of I-80 and right across the state line. So
by Calumet City.
oh yeah,
Okay.
they were our tribals.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thornton Fractional North and TF South. I went to TF South High School, and TF North was our tribals. That's Calumet City. So it was the state, the city of you got Chicago, then you got, I guess it was Hagwish, and then Cal City, and then Lansing. So we were just on the skirts of the southeast side of Chicago. Mom and dad are from Chicago, family still in Chicago, and I have officially been a Hoosier now for 29 years since I've been in Indy. No, more than that, because I worked in Elkhart in 92, 93. So quite a few years. I mean, I've spent my entire career in Indiana.
Is this your 30th anniversary episode right here?
No, it'll be July of 95 is when I started at Fox 59. So it's coming up.
Well,
But that was that, and I can't believe I want to say it's 30 years almost.
back
That's
with
crazy.
Jordana.
Jordana, that was I preceded Jordana. Actually, it was Bob Donaldson, the last of us that have been there for a long time. Russ McQuaid, Bob Donaldson, couple of fellows behind the scenes, Jamie Suter, who's been our chief photographer for years. He's wonderful. Hagen has been there. Chris Hagen's been there quite a while, but the guys that have been in there since the mid 90s, there's only a handful of us. So I came in 95. The newscast started in 91. We only had one newscast a day.
Oh, I remember that.
30
Yeah.
minutes, followed by Deep Space Nine. And prior to that, it was actually an hour long. And when they wanted, and Bob, when they launched the newscast, Bob Donaldson and Chris was doing weather. Chris Wright was doing weather. They had Brian Hammond's doing sports.
Yeah. Wow.
He lived in my neighborhood.
Yeah, well, what a great guy. And they moved forward from that, but they retracted. They started the newscast and then they were an hour long and they cut off that second half hour because they weren't getting a rating, or they back in the day. And so it was a 30-minute newscast for many, many years. Now the morning newscast at Fox started, I believe, somewhere around 1999.
Yeah. And that was
Jordana
Green.
Yeah.
I hope my wife's not watching. Jordana Green gave me bad thoughts.
Jordana Green.
I thought this was a family show.
No.
Well, Jordana Green, was that her last name?
Yeah.
Okay.
We found it.
She had me on, and
Oh, yeah?
and my daughter Abby, and Abby had Cat's Eye at Lawrence North where she did the news.
Yeah.
And she allowed Abby to take him to break.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
just
cool.
then you get Angela Gano, and she's
Yeah,
been
Angie's been there for quite some time. I want to say she's going on 16, 17
Yeah.
years. So yeah, we've got, it's changed. The whole world and the landscape of news locally has changed as well. But when we started out, they didn't give us much credit. See, as a competitor and as always in big competition, they didn't give us 6, 8, 13. Always thought we were nothing but a college station that wasn't worth it. They looked down upon the station.
little brother.
Yeah, and it just, you guys are nothing more than, so it was always this uphill battle. Particularly even, Bob and I still being there as long as we still have that drive to, be successful and try to make your way and make it to be among
My parents like you and Bobby D.
Yeah, I mean, it's people get used to seeing you and they get comfortable with you.
Absolutely.
And that's a big part about it, is just establishing that
Well, it's a trust.
yeah.
And you've had a weather week a couple days ago.
Yeah, that was,
Spent some time.
I got to thinking about it, it kind of comes in spurts, there has been a few years where we didn't have much in the way of bad weather. And then this spring, things ramped up. I would say back in last year, last March, March 31st, when we had the big tornado outbreak, that was opening day at Victory Field. That was the Sullivan tornado. That was the tornado that went through Johnson County.
Yes.
Long day. And to be
Damaging.
yeah, it was an awful night. And it started off with me being live at the ballpark for opening night and knowing full well we were going to have bad weather that night. Yeah, and I had to do this fine balance of, we want you live at the ballpark, it's a big night, but we also know it could be big weather. And you had to do this fine dance of what a great night to be at the ballpark. It's 60 degrees. What a great night for the end of March, but come on out and enjoy the game, but get home by 11:30 because bad
Yeah,
weather's
yeah. You might want to leave when they cut off beer sales.
yeah, and so that was a lot, and I don't know that I've ever been in such a position where I had to kind of do that fine balance. And what happened was we got the game in. I started to head back, and I think it was about 8:30 at night that the tornado watch issued. This is going to be bad. And by the time I got into the studio and got ready to go, our first tornado warning went out at about 9:40. And then we didn't look back after 10 o'clock. I think I talked like we're talking right now, I think for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sort of what happened the other night.
The Tuesday night.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we didn't have as many tornadoes develop, which
No.
is kind of surprising. So it goes in bursts. We had that March 31st. We had the June 25th tornado too that hit down near Center Grove.
Mhm.
And then we had the outbreak of several tornadoes a few weeks ago. And then the other night, Tuesday night. So
Well,
yeah.
we were doing Newell and I were doing the election coverage on Tuesday night.
Yeah, yeah.
And John Herrick kept on interrupting because of the weather.
Because of the
And
warnings,
it kind of, hopefully people were tuning in more for the weather and got us of the election.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. And maybe a free plug for Honey Baked Ham.
Yeah. Actually, Jim and I are,
The weather for thanks for the tornado warning.
yeah, the two of us are on that station often enough. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever dropped a plug for our sponsors. That might change tomorrow.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's great. But
So
yeah,
when you're on like that and and weather's breaking, is there somebody who's behind the scenes who's feeding you information, or you largely just you're looking at the screen and you're just talking about what you're
more
seeing?
often than not, I'm on my own. There are times when another meteorologist is there. Luckily, it's kind of interesting because on some occasions you sit back and you go, for instance, it'll be 20 years ago, May 30th, that we had the race day tornado.
Yes.
2004.
Yeah.
And the Pacers.
Yeah, that was the Pacers in the playoff, and there was flash flooding. More often than not, though, Brad, it's you're there and you're working, and you're a staff of one. And there are times when we know there's going to be a severe weather outbreak. We get extra weather people that are on their day off there. We're ready to go. There are other times where that one discrete supercell thunderstorm decides to say, "Hey, what's up?" And it just keeps going and it keeps going. And all of a sudden, it's 2 hours. You're tracking this long lived stuff, but no one's feeding it. It's interesting because we talked about how short our newscasts used to be 30 years ago. We now do what I call a Jerry Lewis telethon every afternoon. It starts at 4 o'clock.
Yep.
We're on until 7:30. We take a break. We're back on from 10 to 11:30. And I do all of the weather generally. And I have for many, many years. We've just added a couple of new meteorologists to our staff, which is wonderful. But I'm used to being on the air 4 or 5 hours straight, generally every day. So when we go to severe weather, I'm interpreting the data and interpreting the radar. So nothing is being fed to me, but the only thing that I look for is that while you're doing the severe weather coverage, you're looking at the radar, you're trying to analyze where it's going, you're trying to keep people safe. That's the long and short of it. That's the biggest thing here. And we'll go back to that. But you're checking the reports. Do we have a confirmed tornado? Has anybody seen anything? Can I give the public more information than I see rotation? I know what it's doing. I see the track. Is there a tornado? Our best guess is that, well, let's be safe rather than sorry.
Bob, a big part of life these days is fear.
Yeah.
And has there ever been a time where you walked out of that station with your hand shaking because it was so
Intense.
and so damaging and like Henryville?
Yeah, that was March 2nd, 2012. And it's crazy because I have the recall of all these dates, I really do. No, I wouldn't say that I walk out and say, oh, that I'm shook up.
Worn out.
Yeah. Worn out. Again, when I think about me being tired for talking for 4 hours, has no, it's nowhere near what the guy cleaning up the house got hit by a tornado.
Right.
So no, you just don't be a baby. Oh, I'm tired because I've been talking about,
Yeah.
I was born built to do this job. I wanted to get out of school in fourth grade. And from that point on, I had to figure out how the snowstorm works so I can get out of school, right?
My dad's a big fan. And did you hear that, Dad? He's been wanting to do this, like me,
Fourth
with
grade.
politics since fourth grade.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, but it's one of those deals where I do know distinctively that I remember walking out of the studios on the Thursday before the race day tornadoes. And we spilled out into the loading dock and we're getting ready to go home. And my producer and Bob Donaldson were walking out with me. And I looked at both of them and said, I got a really bad feeling about Sunday. I mean, I am really worried. And you have that weird gut feeling
You get
that
400,000 people.
Yeah,
Right.
well, and in Indianapolis, you want
Yeah.
to say, "Oh, race day is going to be awesome,"
and I'm
yeah.
like, no, this is going to be bad. And it was bad. That was terrifying that I thought that. And my recollect is that we had a wave in the morning between 10 and 11:30, 12. The race started up again. The main event was coming in later. And that was the very first time I ever saw a tornado.
I was just going to ask, have you seen one or been in
Yeah,
one?
I had taken a break. We had stopped. I went down to the south side where my wife was living at the time. We had a brat and had some friends. And I said, okay, well, and I started back north and that tornado developed and I saw it. The very first time I ever saw a tornado. And it was, wow, what an amazing to see. But I'm like, it's going right towards 37 and 465. And I pull over and I try to stop cars. And people are still driving toward it. You're seeing the power lines going down. You're seeing the transformers blowing, and you're like, where are you going? Stop, So but I've got
Chills. Stop in traffic.
yeah, try at least attempting to do it. And I'm on a cell phone at the time. And this is again, 20 years ago. And I'm talking to the station. I'm like, guys, we got a confirmed tornado. It's on, it's tracking. And you don't know if it's going through downtown, if it's going to downtown Indianapolis, where people are now going to the Pacers game for the playoff game. Anyway, so I've never walked out. I always feel bad when you find out about a person's home being destroyed. I visited the destruction. Back in 1995, it was the 30-year anniversary of the Palm Sunday tornado.
Yeah.
So just prior to moving to Indianapolis, we did a story about the Palm Sunday tornadoes from my old television station in South Bend, Elkhart, and we found all the vintage footage of the day after. And I thought, my goodness, we have got to preserve this, get this into the libraries, save this. And we did a special on it. And that was 1995. I remember going through and talking to people, just, we had interviews and how they were so still scarred. PTSD wasn't a thing back in 1965, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I learned about it is how people recovered or didn't really recover after such a traumatic experience. And I spoke to first responders from them. These guys were war guys, and they were just kind of, well, we scrubbed bodies. A lot of mud was impacted in our wounds, so their gangrene was setting in. I'm like, I don't think anybody really understands how awful that night was. And you see these videos and you see the tornadoes, but
And for our audience, where was the Palm?
well, that was April 11th, 1965. That was the deadliest tornado outbreak in Indiana history. It was the one and only time that a blanket tornado warning was issued by the U.S. Weather Bureau.
Where did it go through?
Well, it was primarily central and north central Indiana, but Michigan, Illinois, Ohio. There were, I want to say, 137 fatalities in the state. 84 alone in Elkhart County. That would be the deadliest tornado outbreak in the state history. And one of the amazing things I learned from that, not only talking to the people who had the experiences, but no one died in the farm communities. And I thought to myself, particularly the Amish communities,
Yeah.
they don't have radios, they don't have
No.
telephones, they didn't have weather warnings. I mean, we did have at the time, a weather warning, but I thought people paid attention to the weather. Didn't just wait to get it on their phone and act,
Yeah.
right? And
Well, sometimes there's something to be said for just being aware of your surroundings, and I think
we say it, be weather aware,
Yeah,
particularly
the
bad weather
Amish
days.
probably have fewer
I
distractions.
just thought that was an interesting sidebar that like, wow, these guys are, but farmers are great because they're out in the environment all the time.
They know,
Yeah,
they pay
yeah.
attention.
So kind of going right back, no, but there are times when there's bad weather, I think it's more of an angst that man, I gotta get people safe. That's why you really do this.
Yeah,
People
you're
will
almost
call,
like a first responder.
well, it's a heads up to all of them. And again, I come from a law enforcement family, so I haven't had to go to do that kind of thing. And what an amazing character they are, all of our first responders. But that's my father was a policeman. My brother is. I've got my sister and my brother are prosecutors, and I wanted to be a TV weatherman.
Hey,
because I wanted to
admirable.
get out of school.
You gotta
hold that thought. We gotta take care of some business.
Oh, we gotta.
You were
commercial.
pay a bill.
you were watching Merritt in the Morning with your host, 30-year state senator Jim Merritt.
30 years.
So think about it. You were first elected right about the time Brian came to town.
94.
Coincidence?
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
90.
I'm Brad Klopfenstein. I'm president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber and some other stuff. We are talking
I
today.
make beer.
I make beer.
Stormwater.
So now I'm on the stormwater board.
Oh yeah.
That's very important. Very important.
Yeah.
We're talking today to Fox 59 Weatherman Brian Wilkes. Want to thank our sponsors, the Honey Baked Ham Company, location at 96 in Michigan and Greyhound Pass in Carmel. They are offering $15 off select hams and sizes. So I'll just tell you, it's a half bone-in ham or a whole boneless ham. Tell them you heard about it on Merritt in the Morning. They will get you hooked up with that special.
What a deal.
It is a great deal. Thank you very much to Stockyards Bank and Trust, locations at 71st and Binford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis, Plainfield, near St. Francis Hospital. Thank you, Paul Lamone, for sponsoring us and believing in us. Whenever you get thirsty, ask for an Alpsprout beer. Sometimes you'll get lucky and they'll have one. And we're coming to you live right now from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison. Check them out for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Again, tell them you heard about them here, and they will offer you no discount. They'll say thanks for being here.
When you think big weather, my mom's from Clarksville,
Oh yeah.
Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
And my wife is from Salem.
Oh yeah.
And I have this story about Henryville
Yeah.
and that
Terrible.
wild tornado. And it was so bad that a baby was ripped out of a
That's
mother's
right. Yeah.
arms and gone. The bus driver for the local high school was taking, I think it was kind of a K through 6 school, had 12 kids on her bus.
Yeah, I remember that.
And her name was Angel. And she was delivering kids around town, and she saw the weather reports and things were going crazy. And so she decided that she wasn't gonna drop off any other kids that day. She took them back to the concrete block school.
That's right.
Yep.
And dropped them off. And that school bus ended up in the restaurant across the street from the
That's
school.
wild.
And that's how damaging, that's how scary weather can be. And the interesting part about it, her name was Angel.
Yeah.
And Fox, the big Fox, actually had the video of her calming her kids as she was getting back to the school, because they were
getting off the bus. He was hustling.
Yep.
Yeah, hustling back.
Yeah,
And
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah,
story.
and,
I knew that. Yeah.
if I would have represented that area, I would have gone and found Angel and
Yeah.
gotten her a Sagamore the Wall.
When you say that, and it brought what really brought back was the fact that in the Palm Sunday tornado, I remember that the vintage film showed school buses turned over, and I spoke to a lady who had 2 babies. One was torn from her arms during that tornado and lost and
Yeah.
passed away.
Just
So it's
Tragic.
you know, here it is, that's 1965, that's 2012, March 2nd, and it's going to happen again. We're going to have another incredible tornado outbreak. That was an EF4 tornado down in Henryville. I think the track from Henryville to Maryville and then kind of northeast.
That's Hurricane Alley, as my dad calls it.
Yeah, it's
you know, that's where Colonel Sanders grew up.
Yeah.
well, that took a sudden twist.
Yeah. So grab yourself some fried chicken when you go down to Henryville.
Speaking of tornadoes,
So,
God bless.
My mom has been hit by a tornado at least 3 times.
I haven't fallen or get hit by lightning.
Wow.
Okay,
Weather
now I
is
thought we
serious.
completely stopped the show.
Weather is serious. It's a serious thing.
It is. No, I know, and we were able to, you know, thankfully, they're okay. I think if you know, that's again kind of going back to have someone's home wrecked and their lives completely ripped apart. For me to go, oh, I'm tired, or you know, oh, I worked so hard talking. No, man, you know what hard is trying to pick up your pieces.
Yeah.
You know,
You saw a lot of that this last
Yeah.
week in Oklahoma.
there are over, what did I count up? Over 1,000. There were 1,200 severe weather reports since Monday. Which you know, again, I really think that this stuff always goes in
Spring.
cycles.
Mhm.
And, you know, now more than ever, we have our phones, we have the ability to show the video. You get it instantaneously and it looks like, oh my goodness, this has never happened before. It has, but you know, back in the early, when I was in school and when I was studying, there was a thing called a VHS tape. And even prior to that was the beta tapes, right?
Yep.
And the storm chasers back in the 80s and early 90s started to be, when you had those little portable cameras, would go out and they would chase the tornadoes. They would capture one. And one of the ones that I could remember very clearly was the Andover, Wichita, Kansas 1991 tornado. I was a student at WGN in Chicago, and I was under the tutelage of the longtime meteorologist there, Tom Skilling.
He just retired. didn't
Yeah,
he?
he just retired in February. He had been there
Oh, you know
40
that.
some years.
I don't know how I know that, but I know that.
Yeah, and so I had spent nearly 3 years under him as an apprentice, essentially. And I remember all of these weather nerds, and that's what we are. These guys show up at the weather center in the back of WGN, and they would wheel out the cart with the TV on it and the VHS player, and they're like, look at this tornado video we got 3 months ago. And they put it in, you know, and they're like, oh, and they'd stay up until we'd watch it. And I had all these great, you know, I had fellas there that were from the National Severe Storms Lab at Nessel, is what it was called back in the day. These guys would get together and I'd hear them discussing what they saw, what this is, storms chasers that were seasoned, and I picked up a lot of information. It was great. I was, you know, 19, 20, 21 years old, soaking the stuff up. But now you get so much video. I think people, there's a heightened of fear at times. I think because you see so many pictures of it, you think it's going to, most people in their life will never see a tornado,
No.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
But at this day and age, you have so much more news coverage, and news loves weather. In fact, you know, I think weather really drives most of the news outlets because it's the one thing that impacts everybody equally.
I think people watch the evening news primarily for the weather anymore. And that's nothing against Bobby D or anybody else.
No, I mean,
But I
you
think
get it
it's
so fast.
part of your life.
It's interesting because we're in local television news and even national to some degree, the nighttime newscasts are in a position now. How do we stay informative? How do we keep eyeballs on us when you have these devices in your pocket that will give you the information all you want? And I guess my approach to it is that, yeah, you can look on your phone, and get a forecast. So what do you need Brian for? Because I'm going to tell you about why I think the storms are going to be severe or why they may not be. I'm going to explain it. I like to teach it.
Yeah.
You know, so you have a little bit of like, hey, this is what's going to happen and this is why, and this
You
is
don't get
what we
the
should
why.
prepare. Yeah,
You don't get the why on your phone.
right. And it's just, you know, so not to be like be a smarty, and I'm going to be I like to kind of, and I get why teachers teach, because when you light someone up and they get the idea of how this works, you boil it down, and then that's the fun.
success.
Yeah, it is, and I like to explain it. Again, I eat, drink, sleep, weather. It
Well,
is
that's what
my
they pay
passion,
for.
you know.
I mean, that they.
I thought it was for my good looks.
I gotta ask, you're a pretty funny guy. Have you ever done stand-up?
No,
Thought
I've
about
got,
doing
I've
stand-up?
got terrible knees. I have to sit down.
Okay.
I'm here all week. Do you think-
Oh, there we go.
Is that about on the level of the broadcast?
Yeah, yeah, actually, that's right in the,
Look at David Letterman.
Yeah.
Right. No, but I was a class clown. There's no doubt about it. And that's the interesting thing about meteorologists, that we are nerdy. We come from a place of being introverts, a typical, I like math and I like numbers. So being a broadcaster and having to be an extrovert is kind of a unique big deal, like
Coming from Stan Wood and.
yeah, and one, some of our, like I see Bob McLean, and Bob on the air swoop was very, methodical about his broadcast, and every once in a while he'd go swoop, but he was kind of reserved, but you run into him, we sit down, and we yes, we do. We have started a little older crew. We have Bloody Marys and we meet up. David James started that up. But something like that, we tell jokes. We all have a great sense of humor, and I think we take we all are lighthearted. But yeah, I was definitely a class clown. I always was jerking around and having a good time, throwing paper airplanes up, trying to stay out
I
of
always
trouble,
loved Don Hine and Bob Gregory. One
Bob, yeah.
doing the weather and the other one doing the sports.
Yeah.
Switching
Oh God,
roles.
boy, the fellow, they both worked they were both 30 plus years, Don.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob. And Bob would start to chuckle and laugh, and I would run
He
into.
just would go
Yeah,
rampant
we would-
with laughter.
Back in the day, we would meet up at Crawford's Deli. Remember that?
Of course.
So
Oh,
we would
gosh,
be in
yeah.
the newscast, and there we would all kind of spill in, not knowing who would be there at that given point. We'd have a sandwich and then just talk and
well, that's when you were downtown, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Capital.
That was back in the day, man. That was. I can't believe that was that many years.
So, and you were 30 years here. How has it changed? Because when you started at 59, that station was independent, right?
Yes.
It was, no, when I started, it was a Fox affiliate.
Well,
Yeah.
well, it was a Fox affiliate, but as
Right.
far as the ownership group, you
Yeah,
guys were a one-off.
They
at
were a
the
smaller
time.
group,
Yeah.
the Renaissance group, and then we got gobbled up by WGN's Tribune Company,
Mhm.
and then we were Tribune for many, many years. And now, as of 2019, we were bought up by another group called Nexstar. So it's funny how many people will call the station and think that we're Fox National, and I'll be like, tell that Cudlow that I don't care for what he's saying, or what was the no spin zone?
Yeah,
that came on here? They thought they were there. and I-
Please hold, I'll transfer you.
Yeah, that's right. So, so it was, and I think all of the stations too have been kind of, that's another big thing about how it's changed, because these smaller groups have kind of been enveloped by larger groups and larger corporates. Corporate takes over and things change.
Right.
And one of the things that I think has changed is that they know that the audience is shrinking. You got to reach out and get a younger audience. I mean, this is something that, people will tune into, particularly younger audience, so they can listen to it on their iPod phones.
I'm just hoping that maybe somebody's streaming this in their car at some point.
Right.
And, when they're on their way to work. So,
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I always see Brian Wilkes giving us a forecast.
Right.
I want to know a little bit about the man kind of behind the scenes.
But that's how it's changed. I think a
Yeah.
lot of it, of course, we have expanded news, which was really unique, because we were a 30-minute newscast, and then COVID hit and the economy was changing, and a lot of these news departments were shrinking, and we started to expand and add more and more hours.
So yeah, you went from a half an hour.
We went a 30-minute.
30 minutes to now you're on 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or well, you're an hour and a half late night.
Bob Donaldson could definitely walk you through exactly how it went. But I remember it was a 30-minute newscast. We started the morning show, and that was kind of funny because they started in 99, and I think it only went from 6 to 9. It was 3 hours. And for those folks in the morning, they kept going, well, if we're on at 6, we might as well be on at 5. We're on at 5, we might as well be on at 4:30. We're on till 9, might as well be on till 10. One of the unique things was that we had the ability to expand, because we weren't underneath the thumb of got to hit to those hard breaks to shows.
One of the things I think that resonate with people is camaraderie. And when you think about Fox 59 and CBS 4, it's a family. I think
Everybody gets it. Well, I mean, you see us on air, folks,
Yeah.
and we.
Yeah, when someone gets sick,
I think they like me. I don't know. They don't.
I can see through.
Be
I can
honestly.
see through fake.
Yeah,
But when you're
TV's
there,
a
and
great transparency.
I'm there
yeah, you've
a
been,
lot.
yeah,
And I I can walk through all the desks there and
Yeah.
talk to people and they stay, they've been there,
yeah.
they're veterans. And when somebody gets sick, which they have with
Yeah.
cancer or whatnot,
Yeah.
there's a real camaraderie and a real family atmosphere when you walk in the place. And it's true.
We were, yeah, and we were also a younger group of people too. You know, we didn't have the 30-year experience folks. You know what? So we were all kind of early on in our career, and now I'm the old guy there, you know, and Bob, you know, hey, even Dan Spieler's been there
Well,
walking.
Debbie Knox is retired.
Well, Deb got, you know, Debbie was so thrilled to come over and do, you know, she left and then she came back and she joined us in 15.
Mhm.
And she's a stitch too.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, man, this is cool. This is kind of, it gave her like a different perspective
A
and
real spur, no
yeah,
question about it.
and got really excited about being over there. And I think it was just kind of a fresh approach. But yeah, I would say that, you know, the vast majority of us, there always was a crew that would go out after work. That was a different,
does
that
not
was a
surprise
different era, man. Back in the day, there was some wild fun.
Well, it's Thursday.
You know,
What's gonna happen this weekend?
it's gonna cool off.
We're gonna have a race at the Speedway.
Yeah, which is you know why I enjoy that Grand Prix? Because they will run if it rains. You know?
I always look forward. I want it to start raining at about lap 10. So that
Really?
everybody has to
Yeah.
change tires and then dry off real quick so that they got to figure out, the strategy of when do we get off the wet tires and go to the dry. And
You know, you asked about when you get stressed out. The race forecast has always been like it just the Mayox moments. You know, 1997. I knew again it was like, oh, this is going to be a mess. I recall sitting in my garage talking to Jeff Pigeon on IBC that morning. And I go, well, Jeff, the rain's going to keep coming. Blah, 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 blah. You know, we were talking, all right, and it's always, are there going to be any windows? Are there going to be any windows? And you just want to say, you know what? Not a chance in hell. You know? It was close.
yeah, do something else. Was
But
that the
you
year
don't.
that the
You
year they
don't
finished
because
on
you just-
Tuesday?
because they were all. Yeah, they ran it on Tuesday.
Okay, yeah.
And but that's always a stressful forecast because you just want to be right. You want to give it. And I really got into this idea many years ago, and it was a Labor Day weekend where there was a talk of a lot of rain. It was going to flood, and everyone got worked up into a frenzy, and they were going to hand out bags of sand. And I'm like, whoa, slow down, hold on a second here. No. And this was the year that I really came up with this idea that I don't want to say there's a chance for rain. If I ever predict rain, there's 100% chance it will rain. But where? I'm not at that point. None of us are to say it's going to rain in Lawrence, but not in Cumberland or Oak Landing. But there would be coverage, and that's where I've gone with this. But that particular year, they canceled parades. Everybody was, you know, freaking out about a bunch of rain. We got about 1.5 inches of rain for the entire weekend, and people were calling and saying, you said it was going to be bad. I'm like, no, I didn't. I was the one who didn't say it would be bad, you know, and that was enough where Facebook had just kind of got on it. And my weekend meteorologist at the time got on and said, like hell, we said that. Brian was very, very emphatic that there would be big gaps of rain for, you know, and that's when you get, so the race forecast has become one of those deals where, now I want to be hyper accurate. Like we have a chance in rain between 2 and 4. So we should be okay with the race, but towards the latter part, I mean, you could literally, and we've all been there, can see a rain shower go over turn 3,
Of course.
and it's doing nothing at 1, or you know, it's just that crazy.
Big tracks.
But it's a great challenge, and I love that forecast. But it's also, the Grand Prix this weekend. Yeah, have at it. Have a good time. It won't be terribly hot.
Now, I've got to ask, obviously, I run the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. You are in the Lawrence vicinity.
Yeah,
There
I've been
seems to
around
be
a little
an extraordinarily large number of weather cameras situated in and around Lawrence. Is that your doing?
Well, no, it was, we actually got together and quite frankly, I think who was the facilitator of it was Dino Vitalis.
Yeah, former chief
chief,
fire
you know?
chief. Yeah.
Dino and I have known each other for quite a few years because I had been out here with my good friend Lee Adams raising money for the Lawrence Exchange and for Kids Voice and for first responders and for homeless veterans. And so I've been around with the Lawrence Exchange group. And for whatever reason, we got talking to the mayor and we said, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we, the park was getting done and we were coming out for the, I said, let's get a camera up. And they said, well, we'll put up cameras all over town. And I said, well, you just let me know and we'll hook it up and and I love them. They look beautiful.
Yeah, let's see, there's Lawrence Civic Plaza. There's the one that's on City Hall
Yep,
looking into
Fort Bend.
into Fort Bend. There's one at Indian Lake Country Club.
Well, I have a little something to do with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
far
looks good.
we're on minute 50 of our 30-minute podcast, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you for staying with us.
Are we already done?
Yeah,
We're not done. We're still broadcasting.
we're laughing.
Unlike you, we don't have a hard stop.
Yeah,
So-
no. Well, I don't know that that's even true too. I have producers that come in. I think I've heard rap. I've kind of gotten to the point, and no disrespect, but don't tell me to rap.
Yeah, I can look at the clock.
I
I
got
know
some
what
stuff
time
to
it is.
do here. Let me take care of this. I'll be back. Again. Look, I'm done when I'm done.
That's like Jim Valvo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gotten to that point, yeah, but I'm sure I drive them crazy, but yeah, I've got a lot of stories to tell.
So we've been talking to Fox 59 weatherman.
I think I've been talking.
Yeah, well, I know
That's the best.
that's the best
Less
part. It
of
makes
us,
our
more
job
you.
easy. That's yeah. We've learned the best episodes are the ones where we say little and our guests say a
Yeah,
lot.
well.
So
My first grade teacher told me a long time ago. I had diarrhea in the mouth.
you were the kid that got put in the corner for not being for talking in class,
We didn't
weren't
get
you?
put in the corner back then. They just threw the erasers at
Oh
us.
my
you know.
gosh, go back to those days.
Mrs. Schmerl.
I bet you were fun on the bus.
Always sat in the back.
So you've been watching episode number 29. It's iffy if we'll ever get to episode 30.
It's gonna be 30.
I am Brad Klopfenstein. He's Jim Merritt. Our guest today has been Fox 59 weatherman Brian Wilkes. We have been coming to you, hang on, let me get up the slide, from Cafe Audrey's, Fort Harrison. Remember, hashtag food at the fort and hashtag why I love Lawrence.
And work hard and be nice.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Jim, I made sure that was in our shot today.
Okay,
A couple
excellent.
times I've failed on that. Thanks to Alpsbrow Beer. Remember, so very, very Bavarian. Stockyards Bank and Trust. Thank you very much for supporting our podcast, and it allows us to have fun on typically every other Thursday morning. Stockyards Bank and Trust with locations at 71st and Binford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis, Plainfield, and near St. Francis Hospital on the south side. Also, Honey Baked Ham Company. Remember, this weekend, Mother's Day weekend, don't make mom cook. Whatever you do, order a ham from Honey Baked Ham, and they'll give you $15 off.
We're gonna have a whole episode on him.
We can do it. Ham talk would not be a bad episode.
Hamming it up.
We need to have a ham talk at.
So-
We're
Honey Baked Ham.
hamming it up.
Yes,
Honey
we
Baked
have
Ham.
it. All right. So you've been watching Merritt in the morning. We're probably going to continue to talk.
Yeah, well, sure.
It will now be
Give
off
me
camera
cover.
though. So
Do what
yeah,
you
go
do.
go do about whatever you do on Thursday.
Thursday
So
morning.
yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you
Thursday,
soon.
huh?